guys, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to The Wandering Reader. Today I'm going to be doing my books beginning with April recommendations. As you guys know, there is a theme to my TBRs every month, which I'm picking out of a little jar that I've got, and this month was the month of themes. No, the month of letters. What should I call it? Yeah, I called it the month of letters. So I picked a book for every letter in April. I'm finding it really difficult to get my words out today. Yeah, so I picked a book beginning with every letter from the word April for my TBR, and I do a recommendations video every month based on whatever theme I pick out. So today I'm going to talk to you about 5 books beginning with April that I would recommend reading. When I was picking them off of my shelf earlier, I was kind of, yeah, slightly surprised about the fact that I didn't have as many as I thought I was going to. I thought I would, oh, it's a short month, so maybe I'll do like 2 for each letter or something like that, but that didn't happen. So I'm just going to talk to you about 5 books that I want to recommend you today. My recommendation for A is All the Brat Places, and this is by Jennifer Niven. This was Jennifer Niven's debut novel, I believe, and it focuses around Theodore and Violet. And right at the beginning of the book, Violet meets Theodore on top of the school kind of bell tower, and Theodore is looking like he's going to jump. I can't remember why Violet's up there, whether that's what she wants to do too, but her sister has just recently passed away, and so she's dealing with the grief of her sister passing away. And then they meet at the top of the bell tower and strike up this conversation. Theodore obviously doesn't jump, and then they start this friendship between the two of them, and it centres around this school project that they have to do, where they have to visit different places in their local area, and it's about their friendship and the sort of their relationship as you go through. There has been some criticism of this book, I think from sort of like a mental health point of view. To be honest, when I read it, I wasn't on BookTube at the time, so I didn't really know what the sort of criticism was behind it. I just really quite liked the story. It was really emotional, and the ending kind of got you right there. And I just think it's a nice read, basically. I can't really speak for the criticism on mental health in here, but I did really enjoy the story, so from that sort of point of view I would recommend reading this one. My recommendation for P is Purple Hibiscus, and this is by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This was the first Adichie book that I read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. This centres around a girl called Kambili. She's 15 in the novel, and her family, or her father in particular, is really deeply religious, and her father is not a particularly nice person. In fact, that's putting it mildly. He's abusive and aggressive and violent, and sort of does those things in the name of religion. And this is set in Nigeria against the backdrop of a political coup, and as this is going on in the book, her father decides to send them away to go and live with his sister, and his sister is very, very different from him. She's got a very sort of forward-thinking and radical is probably the wrong word, but very forward-thinking way of looking at the world. The complete opposite of her brother, and Kambili's life just sort of opens up from there. This is really dark and really upsetting at times. There are triggers in here for abuse and violence and that sort of thing, but I just thought it was really, really beautifully told, and I love Adichie's writing, and this kind of sparked a love of her writing for me, because this was the first one that I'd read. Was it? I don't think, oh no, I think it is the first one that she published as well. It's her debut. I have read Americana since, and I didn't like it as much, but I don't know whether that's got something to do with the kind of time that I read it and me not being as invested in the story perhaps. So I do want to give that one another go at some point, but I absolutely love this book and would really urge you to read it. My recommendation for R is Ready Player One, and this is by Ernest Cline. I actually went and saw the film with my husband yesterday. We don't often go to the cinema just because it's one of those things that time-wise we don't get to do all that often. But yeah, the film was really, really good. We've been anticipating it for ages, and the trailers have been coming out, and we've been sort of awed by the way that the film has been put together and things like that. And of course it was directed by Steven Spielberg, which is absolutely fantastic. I did really like the film, but it is quite different from the book. But this basically tells the story of Wade Watts, and in this is like a futuristic world where there's this game called the Oasis, and it's like a virtual reality world where you can do lots of different things and basically escape from the real world. The real world is not a particularly nice place to live in anymore. I think global warming has meant that there's not a lot of resources around and people are living quite horrible lives. Wade lives in this place called the Stacks, which is basically a series of trailers stacked on top of each other. It's not a particularly great existence. But he plays obviously in the Oasis every day like most other people do. And at the beginning of the book, the owner of the game, or one of the owners of the game, James Halliday, passes away, and he leaves behind this kind of quest for them to complete. So the first person to complete it will take ownership of the game, and it's about Wade, you know, trying to be involved in this contest. And it's an absolutely fantastic book. It's got loads of really cool 80s references, and I was born in the 80s, so some of them went a little bit over my head because I was a bit too young, but kind of the 80s have come back in vogue recently, and so therefore some of those references are a bit more relevant for that reason. Yes, it's great from that sort of point of view, from a nostalgic point of view, but also if you're a gamer and you love the nostalgia of playing old video games and stuff like that, this is absolutely fantastic for that reason as well. Love this book. My recommendation for I is Into the Water, and this is by Paula Hawkins. This is her second thriller that she brought out last year, and I really enjoyed it, nearly as much as The Girl on the Train. This basically tells the story of this little village in England, and it has a drowning pool in it. It's named the Drowning Pool because a number of women have died there in sort of suspicious circumstances across the years. And there's a character called Jules who is called back to this little town when her sister Nell dies, and that's all I'm going to say. People have criticised this because it's from a number of different perspectives, and they found it kind of hard to keep up with it. I didn't find it hard at all. I kind of knew who everybody was. They didn't all have really distinctive voices, but I could distinguish between them. And yeah, I just thought it was really thrilling. You know, I enjoyed it from that sort of perspective, and I would recommend it if you like thrillers. And lastly, my recommendation for L is Life of Pi, and this is by Jan Martel. And of course this is really, really popular because of the film that came out of it a few years ago now, and the film is absolutely fantastic as well. But if you haven't read the book, then I would really, really urge you to. This basically focuses around a 16-year-old called Pi, and at the beginning of the book his family have decided to move to America, I think. From what I remember, I think it's to America. And halfway there, there's a really, really bad storm, and the ship basically that they're on sinks. And Pi is basically the only human survivor of that. But he's on this lifeboat in the middle of the ocean with, and I'm just quoting from the back, a zebra with a broken leg, a hyena, an orangutan, and a 450-pound Royal Bengal tiger. And it's about what happens on this lifeboat basically. And You would think that that sounds like quite a boring story, because it's a decent enough length. It's a good 300-page book, I think, something like that. Yeah, it's a good 300-page book, but it's not boring in the slightest, and it's really well told, and it's really gripping, and the descriptions of the ocean and the different things that Pi does to survive and things like that are just absolutely fantastic. And like I said, the film is really brilliant as well, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people have watched the film, but if you haven't read the book, then I would definitely recommend doing that. So there we go guys, they were my recommendations for books beginning with April. I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments below. Have you read any of these and what did you think of them? Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.